Dahlia. I'm in the Houston area. I am a cosmetic formulator. I have a company called Salve Naturals. We make all natural and organic skincare. We pride ourselves on custom formulating a bulk material for the CBD industry, as well as anybody who wants product, basically. So we do a lot of private label custom formulation, but everything that we do is 100% natural and plant-based. We don't use any artificial fragrance or dyes or surfactants or anything that's artificial. But I do want to say there's a misconception about, what is synthetic versus non-synthetic. And some people think that, okay, just because it's natural, it means it's safe. And just because it's synthetic doesn't mean it's not. So I think there's a misconception. Everyone has this craze about natural skincare. But I will say that some ingredients are not safe if they're natural. So just because you have this, desire to be natural and to be clean and healthy and prevent disease and all that, just be mindful, start to learn to read your ingredients. I will say that there are ingredients that people are afraid of, like parabens and phthalates and all these things. But those fears are at 100%, and nobody's going to put 100% of those ingredients on their skin. So my issue from a natural perspective, an integrative medicine perspective, is preventing bioaccumulation and reducing the exposure of overall chemicals we're exposed to on a daily basis. So let's be real, nobody's putting on those chemicals at 100%. And that might come as a shock because I am a natural formulator, and our mission is to only, manufacture products that are safely derived and doesn't have any, cross-contamination and sustainably harvested. We also have a very strict guideline on meeting cruelty-free and PETA requirements. We have a vetting system for our process for, obtaining suppliers for our products. And, believe it or not, a lot of these materials are not available in the United States, so we have to source them outside. And there are issues of child labor, variety of things that you would never think about here in the States, but that's kind of something that when you're buying products, the mining process of something natural like a kaolin clay, for example, or a mica, some of those are done by children. And so you just have to be mindful that, oh, that looks clean and nice, but there's a history behind all those ingredients. And some of it's kind of scary. The advantage of going with a synthetic product is for the advantage from a formulator perspective from using synthetic is it's cheaper, it's more stable, it's predictable, whereas a natural product, I just came from the lab, so I'm sorry for how I'm dressed, but we're working on a high quality cream for anti-aging for skin. And we started off with orange slime, then it turned into green pesto, and then now it's like banana pudding that's green. So it's like we go through all these variations because the natural materials of the plants just kind of have their own life. And, there's no consistency because of that. And that's what makes it really hard to do what we're doing. And that's where the reliability comes from the synthetic. But I will say all of these, quote, dangerous ingredients that are synthetic are typically used at 1% or less. So it's intended for your safety. So don't be afraid of some of those ingredients. I know it sounds contradictory to what we're doing, but just be mindful. Cosmetic formulators have restrictions on the amount of preservatives and different things that they can put into their products. But the ultimate idea is to provide something that's safe for you. Of course, there are fillers and all this garbage, and nobody wants that. But that's where you as an educated consumer can start learning to read the ingredients and become familiar of what you're putting on your body. People are putting all kinds of healthy things in their body. They're being mindful of their nutrients and their vitamin intake and how much do I take and what do I take together. But people aren't really thinking about the topical aspect or what we're inhaling. There's other ways toxins and things can enter our body. Yes, ingestion is one everybody thinks about. Pollution, yes, but topical and inhalation. Think about like going into a shower. An average shower is about 10 minutes long. And how many products are we using in a shower? We've got shampoo and conditioner and body wash, and then we get out and then we put on more stuff. But we're spending about 61 hours on average a year in the shower putting on chemicals, and then the steam and vapor we're inhaling. So, okay, yeah, it might smell nice, but what are we really putting into our body topically and, you know, inhaling it? So those are concerns that I have generally, and that's what kind of spun off my education series and my community about disease prevention is, yes, from an integrative medicine approach, you know, let's get to the source of why problems are happening, but also let's think about what we are intentionally doing to ourselves. You know, what kind of environment are we creating for our families and ourselves? So yeah, so just think about like how many ingredients are on the back of your bottle of your products, and then you get out and you put lotion and cream and makeup, and you know, it just goes on, and then we're reapplying chemicals to our skin all the time. So it's just kind of an awareness thing about, you know, maybe we could reduce the amount of materials we're putting on our body because we're already eating and having environments that we can't control. So just maybe be mindful a little bit more. I will say, there are some ingredients that I would recommend avoiding in your topicals that you are buying, and there's quite a few, but I would say like my top 3 concerns to be mindful of is any artificial fragrance. Those are typically 95% petroleum gas, and who wants that stuff on their body? You know, we do all have our favorite perfume. I will say if you do use it, I recommend putting it on your clothes and not on your person. Or putting in a hairbrush and then brushing your hair instead of putting it directly on you. The issue is not just the chemicals on your skin, but you're breathing it in. And so that's, just be mindful of what you're using and how you're using it. I really think it's funny how people spray perfumes in the air and then just walk through it. Like that's just, to me, that's hilarious. I have to say I've done it before, so I'm not perfect. But yeah, they're 95% natural gas and petroleum. They also contain phthalates and galaxolide and tonalide. And these are hormone and endocrine and fertility disrupting chemicals. And they also have some concerns with fetal development. There was a study, I believe in Australia, and they found that 7 out of 10 babies had tonalide and galaxolide in their blood. And this has been reported as a proliferation of estrogen too. So there's a concern about mothers using chemicals and exposing infants and during nursing and things like that. So that's very scary. Let's see, I have another one. I'm trying to find my notes here. So let's see. Another issue with the perfume and colognes is that there's an ingredient in there that becomes toxic when it's exposed to sunlight. So that's another issue when you're using lotions and moisturizers, and just to avoid artificial fragrance, because that can also increase risk for skin cancer if you're not being safe. There's also an ingredient which you've heard of, formaldehyde, right? There's quite a bit of this in hair relaxers. They're even in baby products. Body lotions, that it's just 97% of hair products have these chemicals in it. And the issue is they create vapors that create formaldehyde. So you've heard of like hair straightener, like the Brazilian blowouts. That's what that is. And there was a ban for, FDA banned that for a while, trying to resolve some disputes of people dying and hairdressers being exposed to all kinds of ridiculous chemicals. So I will say that if you are already chemically burdened and already have a toxic overload, doing hair treatments is a terrible idea. And also exposure to perfumes and things that create inhalation toxicity. So yeah, if you are at home because of COVID and you're missing your hairdresser, go buy henna. Henna is a natural dye from plants, and you can experiment with that. I will say some of them turn really bright red. So if you're not intending to have red hair, make sure you're buying the black henna. So the third issue that I have with chemicals and ingredients are phthalates. These are used to make plastic. So like those squishy things for stress relievers, your straws, anything that's made with plastic has phthalates in it. And that is a concern because that's in every product that we have. It's used in plastics and resins and rubber. It's also found in soaps, children's toys. The American Academy of Pediatrics published an article stating that infants exposed to these are actually, specifically baby shampoos that contain phthalates and lotions, have an increased risk of metabolites, of phthalate metabolites in their urine. So it's a concern just to be a little bit more careful about reading your label, and don't just buy it because it's cheap. The cheap means that synthetic. Synthetic is okay, but it's also dangerous with a continued exposure. So just be mindful. Any questions so far about weird ingredients and skincare?
Yeah, what are the ones we should be really careful about? For example, in bubble bath, I understand that bubble bath is not good.
Yeah, the sodium lauryl sulfates, the artificial sulfates. The concerns with that from a dermatological perspective is it can cause dermatitis or itchy skin or rashes or dryness. Oftentimes people will say, hey, I've got really bad acne along my forehead or along my neckline, and that's typically due to artificial soap. And then it just dries out your skin. There's also a concern with exposure to retina. It can cause corneal damage. And I actually have a degenerative cornea disease. So when I read stuff like that, I kind of freak out. But yeah, so any exposure to the eyes of sodium lauryl sulfate have a risk of damaging cornea. So yes, there's a risk. Those have estrogen related properties too. There's some concerns with reproductive issues with exposure to that. So yeah, bubble bath, I don't recommend it. But some people think that just because I have soapy suds, I'm gonna get clean. That's not really the case. The best way to remove dirt and oil, dirt from your skin, is to use oil. So if you're removing makeup at the end of the day, don't use soapy water, don't use artificial soap, use coconut oil. If you want a really nice bath, take some Dead Sea salt, hot water in your bath, and then get a scrub and scrub your body with coconut oil or some other, nice oil, and then just sit in hot water. That's like the best medicine you can have. You can add mustard seed. If you're into Ayurveda, there's some like vasodilators type stuff you can include, aromatherapy, essential oils you can add. But the whole idea of using sudsy soaps to clean is total BS. Because really what you're doing is, oil and water separate. And when you put the oil on your body, the dirt attaches itself to the oil, and then the water separates it from your body. So if you want to stay young, prevent wrinkles, and keep your skin clean, don't use soap. It sounds ridiculous. I don't wash my face with soap at all. So yeah, it's a hard thing to get used to, but in the end, it will save you money. I know Janet asked me a question last week about her hands being super dry from using antibacterial cleansers all the time because we just don't have a choice right now. And she says, well, how do I keep my skin moisturized? Well, one, yes, you should be washing with soap and water. I think that's better than antibiotic stuff anyway, from concerns of antibiotic resistance, but that's my own personal debate we can have on another day. So soap and water is ideal, but that does dry your skin out. And the reason is because you're using hot water to remove the natural sebum that forms on your skin. So a natural way to replenish that is, one, take your omega-3s, but also use plant-based oils you can buy in a grocery store. You don't have to buy expensive stuff. Just go experiment, go down your cooking aisle and find some organic avocado oil or almond oil, and don't use sesame because it stinks, and olive oil stinks too.
Or grapeseed oil.
Grapeseed oil is really good because it mimics the skin sebum, so it absorbs really nicely. It's super soft. It's super hydrating. So yeah, you don't need anything fancy to overcome. First of all, nobody has money right now, so why are we going to spend money on expensive products? So let's just do it, and let's be real. Oh, okay. So we'll go to the grocery store and buy, there's something really great I love. I discovered at the grocery store, there's a spray, like a aerosol spray almost, but with vegetable oil for cooking. I get that. And after a shower, you use it all over body and then just air dry. And that's a really great way to stay hydrated, especially in the winter months. But yeah, use just plant-based oils on your hands to stay hydrated, and in your bath to take a bath.
Now, Dahlia, is there any, and I may have missed this, I apologize, y'all. Is there any advice you can give people about maskne?
Maskne? Yeah, maskne. Maskne is, I didn't invent that term. I just heard it and I thought it was really funny. So if you're wearing a mask and you tend to break out around the mask areas, mostly because we're sweating underneath, I recommend using a salicylic type of toner to remove excess clogged pores. Salicylic, it's aspirin, right? But what it does is it's a natural exfoliant without being a scrub. People think exfoliant is a scrub. Yes, but there's also like acids that are the same thing. And what happens when you have the acne or oily skin and you use salicylic acid there, max 2%, it helps unclog the pores to remove the gunk. So in that case, I recommend like a hot, wet towel as well that you can kind of dab on the skin to help open up the pores if you don't want to use salicylic acid. And so the acne deal, try to take off your mask and breathe, let your skin breathe, because your skin is suffocating. So avoid putting anything on your skin if you're wearing a mask. No makeup, you could put serum, you could put moisturizer, but you're gonna sweat and it's gonna create clogged pores. So honestly, if you're gonna have a mask on all day, I'm in Texas. I'm fortunate enough to not have to, we're spaced out enough that we don't have to wear a mask all the time. But if you're in environments where you have to wear a mask, don't wear any skin products at all. You're better off that way to prevent the acne.
Okay, so everybody, I'm sorry. Some people have the chat if they came in after the meeting started, but it seems that most everyone else does not. So I have a question in the chat. I think this question is for Dr. Kogan. Someone is going to go and visit their sister. Her home is COVID-free, and so she's asking whether they have to wear the mask indoors.
How long they will be in that? Whoever asked the question, I think we need a couple of points here. So how long you will be there?
How about the person who asked the question, just unmute yourself and ask it. They're going to be there for a week, Misha.
All right. I think masking for the whole week is totally unrealistic because they're going to eat, they're going to brush their teeth, they're going to do things that you're simply going to have to take the mask for. I think what I would recommend is that everybody is either self-quarantining on testing before doing this. And, I guess the assumption here is that there's going to be no other contacts or they will be very limited. So you're taking a risk of basically extending your circle of immediate, what's it called now? There's a term for that now. Circle of close contacts. I don't see any problem with that unless you deem that the person who you're going to is at the very high risk and you rather avoid that. But again, I don't really see how you're going to well protect, because isolating inside a house is possible, but much more difficult because it's indoors. If you're there all the time doing everything together, so to speak. I don't know if I answered the question. So let's take a couple more questions before we go into the practice.
I have a question for the presenter.
Okay, go ahead, Ori. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, please go ask your question.
Good. I have a question for the presenter. About your website, Salve Naturals. I wanted to ask about that.
Sure.
Do you have any, you talk a lot about skin. Do you have any information more about skin, some of what you've discussed? Because I'm looking on the website and I haven't really been able to look all over. But do you have any information that can be helpful for us to know what not to do for the skin.
Yes.
One other thing I want to ask you too, the Breathe Deeply salve. What is that? I mean, no, is that like Vicks or something?
It is. It's a natural form of Vicks. 100% natural. It's about 90% certified organic content. It's a clean product that you can even put on children. There's no issues with petroleum, anything. Yeah, so you can put it on your stomach, you can put it on your chest and your nose. Some people put it on the bottom of their feet to prevent nausea, help them fall asleep. I mean, these are their stories, they're not mine. I just think it's really interesting how people use them. And we also have a roll-on version of it. So if you don't like the salve idea, you can have a roll-on application.
Oh.
Yeah, so I do have a blog where I've done quite a bit of writing for chemicals and ingredients to avoid.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Is it? I don't know if it's accessible. It should be accessible through the site. Well, okay.
Dahlia, send me a link to your blog and I'll share it with everybody in an email after the program.
Sure, yeah, because I'm not seeing it up right now. I don't know what happened to it, but yeah, we do have a blog with quite a bit of research on different chemicals. We talk about aluminum and different things. So yeah, it's a great read. And if you have any questions, you feel free to reach out to me. My email is Dahlia, DAHLIA @salvenaturals.com. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll take one more question before Misha starts the mind-body exercise.
I have a question about washing your face with, instead of soap. Dahlia, could you just elaborate a little bit further? Like, do you put grapeseed oil in your hand and then put it under the tap and then just rub it and then wash your face like that?
Yeah, or you could just put it in your hand and massage it on your face and then use a damp, wet cloth, warm, damp, wet cloth to remove it. And you'll see the dirt come off in your towel. Yeah.
Well, how much do you put in your hand?
Well, just keep in mind, you're going to take it off in like 5 seconds, right? So you don't want to use a whole lot. A little bit will go a long way. I would say maybe the size of a nickel at the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Dahlia. We really appreciate your coming out of the lab to come and talk to us.
No problem. I'm happy to do that. Thanks for having me.
All right. You have a good one.
You too.
Okay. Misha, are you with us?
Yep. Hey guys.
Okay.
All right. I actually think we should have Dahlia back.
Yeah, we'll definitely have Dahlia back.
You know when we should have her back? When we have Ali Cohen talking about like a clean living.
Oh yeah, sure.
Great to have them together because she's more of an academician and Dahlia is a practical aspect of it. I love that. Okay, so well, everybody, I'm in an unusual role today in this class, but it's a very usual role for me in my personal life and in our smaller local Sufi community where my wife and I teach regular classes. So find comfortable place. This practice is very basic and it's kind of borrowed from some of the traditional yogic practices and Sufi practices. It's all about breath and connecting to the elements that are all around us. If you're not comfortable with chakras, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to, everything is kind of optional. Just stay with your breath. That would be my main suggestion. I do recommend that you, if you need to lay down, that's fine, but make sure that you're not so comfortable that you'll fall asleep. Other than that, there's no other rules or specific requirements. So find comfortable position. You may want to close your eyes if that helps. You don't have to. If you're sitting on a chair or on the floor, feel the weight of your feet on the floor. And the first breath starts with inhaling and exhaling through the nose. So each inhalation and exhalation pass through the nose like this. Inhale and exhale. You continuously inhale and exhale through the nose. And this is so-called an earth breath. You can imagine when you inhale, you draw the earth, grounding earth energy into your body, into the base of your spine. If you're a person who likes colors, you can imagine a dark yellow or brown color of the earth. And when you exhale, you can think of letting go of some of the unneeded physical ailments that you want to release. You can release them into the Mother Earth. And if you're not muted, if you can mute yourself. The earth carries a charge, just like our bodies. And so when we touch earth with our bodies without any shoes or intermediary, we're allowing to rebalance the charge. So in essence, the earth is constantly helping us to stay grounded in a literal form, to keep our electric charge neutralized. So again, inhale and exhale through the nose. And you can make this breath pretty deep as it's comfortable for you. And now we're going to take a last earth breath together. And we're going to transition to the water breath. Again, to inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And you can imagine standing in the middle of the waterfall, the water rushing all around you, washing you, cleaning every surface of your skin. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Our body consists of more than 60% water. So in essence, water element is with us wherever we go. The water flows, it flows down, so you can think of this kind of a washing movement of water falling, not just through the surface, but inside of you too. And if you want to have a connection to a color, it's a dark green or deep blue. And you can position the concentration here in the middle of your belly, right in the back and deep from the belly button. And you can breathe on the inhale, bringing the water energy into that center, and then when you exhale, let it wash off and leave. Take any physical impurities that your body needs to let go of. The reason we call this purification breath is that each element has a specific capacity to clean parts of our existence, whether it's physical or more subtle, as the next element will be. Let's take the last water breath together, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. And let's transition to the fire breath. Inhale through the mouth and exhale through the nose. The fire is an uprising element. Fire can burn any unwanted emotions and desires and When you exhale, you can let them all go with the smoke and ashes that fire produces. You don't need them. Inhale through the mouth and exhale through the nose. And here at the center is in the middle of the chest and our hearts. The color is bright red. And when you inhale, you can imagine the fire glowing, growing in your chest. And when you exhale, not diminishing, but it's letting go of anything that fire burned. Inhale through the mouth, exhale through the nose. Letting go of any emotional attachments or emotional states that are not serving us any good purpose. The frustration, sadness, anxiety. Imagine you literally throw them into the fire. Let them be burned away by the power of your heart. Very active practice. Fire is very strong element, uplifting. And let's take the last fire breath together, inhaling through the mouth and exhaling through the nose. And we'll transition to the air breath. The air is much more subtle. You don't have to inhale and exhale deeply here. You just take a little deeper than usual breath through the both inhale and exhale through the mouth. And here you can imagine that your thoughts are being purified. You can think through the air, the fresh air coming in and taking away any mental imprints, any thoughts that are not serving you well. Let them all go. Let them go with the flow of the air. The thoughts come and they go. You can just observe them, follow the air. If you would like a grounding in a body, you can imagine concentrating on the area around your throat. And the color here is a very light blue, kind of a color of the skies. Letting the air element do its thing. Allowing our jumpy mind to be following the air, letting it express itself, settling it down, coming to a steady state of observing. You can think of yourself as a tree. No matter how strong the wind is, this tree is just gonna move with it, but not crack. Just like that, your mind can follow the wind of your thoughts, but not being thrown off by it. Just let them go. And let's take a last air breath together, inhaling, exhaling through the mouth. And transitioning to the last breath, the ether breath. So we are inhaling and exhaling through our mouth and the nose together. It's a very subtle, very gentle, regularly deep breath, so you're not forcing it deeper than usual. It's a very balancing element. We connect this element with our relationship to the greater, divine, God, whatever you want to, nature, whatever the word that works for you. Again, inhaling and exhaling regularly through the mouth and nose at the same time. You can think of the area just above your crown, right here, just above the area, top of your head. And you can, on inhalation, imagine connecting to the divine, and on exhalation, letting any spiritual imprint, anything that's no longer suits your soul, let go. Try to imagine your path, your conversation with the divine, with nature, get clearer, that you can sense your goals in life and your desires, clear the path of your life gets clarified as you breathe in and out. Traditionally, the color here is white or no color at all. White color thought to represent the whole rainbow. Maybe that's why it's white, but you don't need to attach yourself to that. And we're going to do a couple more minutes of this breath very silently, very quietly, just to have our own individual experience. Now slowly begin to come back. You can wiggle your toes, your fingers, move your head a little bit, sense the room that you're in. Look at the screen, connect to other people. And that's the practice. And again, this practice is called elemental breath, or sometimes we call it purification, elemental breath. Usually you do it sometime in the, maybe before 5 p.m. It can be quite uplifting for some people. Don't do it too late in the evening if you want to do it. It's more of a morning practice, but you can do it, as late as maybe a couple hours before going to bed. So thank you very much. We do have a couple of minutes for questions. I know questions today are kind of all over the place due to the lack of our chat box. So I'll try to drop right back into answering the questions, even though I'm still in a quite meditative space, but that's okay.
I can ask a question.
Go for it.
So you mentioned a few weeks ago that your normal sort of centering tools or practices have been challenged by COVID. And I find that for myself as well. And I just wonder if since that time, if you remember saying it a few weeks ago, if you've come to any conclusions about what might help us all feel a little saner during COVID. And if not, that's fine because it's a crazy time.
No, I actually, it's a perfect question after this practice, I think. Because, I think what I started doing, first of all, I think realization that this is here for a long run, and not just realization, but deeper internal conviction helped, because I realized that actually somehow just took some stress away, and I think helped some of my practices become deeper. But I think also the fact that I started doing practices more regularly, we are also just so happened that our mentors have retired, so we had to take over the class. So now we're forced to teach twice a month, and you have to prep for each class. So I think I always like to say that the best way for me to learn is to teach. So, that forces me to kind of be more authentic and deeper, meaning that I have to practice more frequent. So I don't think I have any magical solution to this. I think we all have to find the individual way of deepening our state of balance. You know, I also feel that the thing that helped, we did do kind of a, you can't call it a retreat since we're at home, but it was a retreat. And we were with our teacher for a whole weekend, and we just basically spent the entire weekend meditating. Yeah, I think that actually also did help. I tend to find myself often craving the retreat space, and I always crave it in nature. Wish it'd be under Claudia's tree there, but you know, it's not possible right now. So it still felt authentic to me, what we did. And I see that there's this type of retreats popping up. In fact, I'm thinking of putting one together myself because it's so easy then, you know, nobody has to travel anywhere, and your fees don't have to be exuberant as they used to be. They can be very low cost. So it's
Okay,
a long
thank
answer
you.
to your question.
No, it's great. Thank you.
Misha, can I say something?
Sure.
You know, I have to say that I feel like I'm even busier than I was ever before COVID, but I actively schedule things into my week. And I find if they're in my calendar, I do them. If they're not in my calendar, I don't do them. So I think that kind of planning ahead and putting things in your calendar, giving yourself some space, it works for me. I don't know if it'll work for anybody else, but
It's a great point.
Yeah, thank you.
I simply schedule them in the morning for myself. So I just block, like I don't do things, say, before 7 a.m. So I just make sure that I protect the morning time when it's quiet before kids wake up, because then, you know, that's it, time's up. But before they wake up, it's quite, you know, it's very quiet. And plus, you know, we have constructions next door. So it's also before they get there at 7:30 or whatever, and start powering tools and all. Maybe two more questions, or one or two, if anybody.
I found that walking in nature, there are so many green places around DC. It's amazing. It's, I mean, Glover Park, Rock Creek Park too, but that's a bit, a lot of people often, but Little Trail, Little Falls Trail, everywhere. It's so calming for me. First of all, to see so many green things, to hear birds. I've seen herons, which I never saw before. We've seen a wild turkey the other day, roosting in a tree. We've seen owls, even a fox in our little garden. For me, to be in nature, to see animals and hear a lot of birds, of course, it's very soothing. And every day, my husband and I, we go and walk, and I find that because you can breathe, you can also use all your senses, which I think is really very important. And we can't miss it now. Every day we have to go somewhere and discover new places as well.
That's great. Yeah.
I have a question about the breathing, about breathing, the last one, of breathing in and out both at the same time through the mouth and through the nose. I found that really hard to do. I was like alternating.
Yeah, so does anybody else have this experience that specific parts of a breath was quite challenging? I see a number of people nodding, raising their hands. So one of the critical aspects of this practice, when that occurs, it means that some of the elements in you are not very well balanced. And so that will probably be reflecting internally on how that element in you operating. So like in the case of the air, you know, maybe your thoughts are racing too much or something like that. You will find it quite interestingly that the once you start practicing this, it's not gonna be that long, maybe a week or two, and you'll find it quite easy to do.
I've done it before. Like I'd never experienced that thing of both at the same time.
Well, you probably just simply never paid attention. I mean, of course, we breathe through both all the time. We're just not conscious of it. Here, you became conscious of it, and you realize that you're struggling a little. And that's the beauty of this breath. I mean, this practice is 5,000 years old plus. So, you know, that it went through thousands of people's experiences, fine-tuning and figuring out and sort of connecting to different parts of our lives. So practice it, give it a time. I mean, see what it does to you. It's simple enough. I think that you're probably going to get through this challenge quickly.
Okay.
Salome, I see raising hand.
Yes, can you have the steps written somewhere? We could. I don't remember them now.
The links? Oh yeah, sure. We'll set that up.
The steps, like where do you start, and then you
yeah. I'll make sure you get a handout. So I'll email this to Janet and we'll post it. Of course.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Sure.
That was my question.
Perfect. I think with that, it's exactly 3 o'clock. So we'll see you guys next Friday. Stay safe, beautifully outside. As JD said, go out, nature.
Thank you.
Happy New Year to those who are celebrating.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We forgot about that. Rosh Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, everyone, I'm ending the meeting. Have a good week.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Jewish New Year,